Hello, everybody. Hello, world. We're going live on Facebook and YouTube. Duke157 on YouTube and 88.1 FM Fargo Moorhead on Facebook. Duke1517 on YouTube. Welcome to the show tonight. Please share it out. Let people know what's going on. We haven't done a show in about 5 days. It's time for a show. It's time to catch up on what's going on. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Facebook. A lot of live streams going on right now. There's all sorts of stuff going on in this country, including the Republican National Convention, which starts in a couple hours, I think. But we want to do a show before that goes on. We don't want to interrupt people's viewing pleasure, but you should have some pleasure viewing what we're going to put up tonight.
You don't want to miss it.
We're just going to let this music play out a little bit, and we're going to get rolling. So if you haven't joined us yet, you're going to miss the beginning. And you have to go way back to the beginning to get what we said in the very beginning. Had a lot of important things right off the bat. So fasten your seatbelt, Dorothy. You're not in Kansas anymore.
Welcome and good evening, everyone. You are listening to Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Tonight, the topic of my show is partisan politics. So much of what is happening in the world cannot be separated from partisan politics, especially here in the United States. So I'm going to be talking about that and how it relates to the rioting, to the activism that is going on throughout our country. This is going to be a deep dive that looks behind the curtain. We're going to pull that curtain back. You know, like in The Wizard of Oz, we're going to find out what and who is behind a lot of what we're seeing happening in our country, and specifically the people, the activists, and the people from politics and Hollywood that are behind it, all on tonight's show. First, I want to go through some information as our country is now facing over 182,301 deaths. Here in the U.S. alone, we have over 5 million cases, 24 million worldwide. We're almost at 900,000 deaths worldwide. And locally, here in Minnesota, we have 10,467 confirmed cases with 138 deaths. In Minnesota, we have over 71,000 confirmed cases and over 1,800 deaths.
I think you said Minnesota instead of North Dakota. You said
Minnesota.
North Dakota is 10,467 confirmed cases.
And Minnesota is 71,285 confirmed cases. And 1,842 deaths here in Minnesota.
You know, I wouldn't mind saying a little bit about the unemployment issue.
Oh, please do.
that President Trump had put into executive order. And I keep on researching it because I keep on following it, because I think that people are used to getting $600 extra in their employment, and it ended, right before the first week of August. And now we're closing in on the last week of August, and people haven't had that extra payment. And people aren't making their rent. But states have been applying. They actually look at the executive order. You have to apply. You have to apply by September 10th to qualify. It's through FEMA. And Minnesota's not doing it because they don't have enough answers. They don't know how they're going to get paid back. They don't know how the reimbursement rate works. North Dakota just decided that they would apply. And what I found interesting is it's only for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of unemployment.
Wow.
That's it. Then the money's out. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. So if North Dakota gets approved, people in North Dakota should get 3 weeks of this back of $300. So $900 they'll get when they're into a second month of another month of missing rent payments. So it's going to add $900, which, is great to help give people some money they need. But it's down to $900, and they're in the 5th week of unemployment, not having a subsidy. So it's very shallow. And, Congress, it looks like they're not going to do anything. It looks like a stimulus package, another stimulus check. It's starting to look very doubtful that there's going to be any help for people because President Trump probably said, we're fine. We don't need any stimulus. Things are just working fine. So I think it's, we can't put a lot of hope into that. Yet you look at the numbers that Cindy just put out that are just reflective of what's really happening. Things are not going good with this pandemic. It keeps on getting worse and worse. We're going to be forced to have to go risk our lives to save our lives.
And there's a lot of people that are doing just that, evacuating in areas where tonight Hurricane Laura has been gaining strength. It is now a Category 4 hurricane and is set to make landfall along western Louisiana and the Texas Gulf Coast. People there evacuating, trying to get out of the way of this hurricane. Even as you showed me earlier, there are people coming in to the Texas Gulf Coast area to gawk.
Yeah, to watch the waves,
Watch the hurricane. Hopefully they will all be safe. And of course, this is night 3, not only of the RNC, but of the riots in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where a black man by the name of Jacob Blake was shot and killed by Kenosha police. He was shot in the back 7 times and is expected to be paralyzed from the waist down. Last night, violence erupted on day 2 of the riots there, with massive looting and burning taking place throughout the city. Protesters, civilians, many of them land and business owners in the area, were arming themselves against the rioters. And 2 people were killed, 1 wounded last night. Kyle Rittenhouse was arrested on suspicion of first-degree murder in connection with a shooting that killed those 2 people and wounded 1 other. But tonight, more information emerging about that shooting, with an eyewitness, Julio Rosas, saying that he does not believe that the shootings were premeditated. Quote, "You have to keep in mind that the whole reason why people came out in the first place is because for the past 2 days, the rioters have had their way with downtown Kenosha," he said. "And I saw firsthand some of these armed civilians stopping the destruction in the city." Rosas also said he witnessed a group of rioters destroying cars in a parking lot, and he watched as one civilian was able to defuse a situation by verbally advising people to stop without firing a single shot. Quote, "We've seen this throughout any mass unrest or riot where people have had to kind of take security into their own hands because, the National Guard and the police have been mainly focused on protecting the courthouse." This is the state of not only Kenosha, Wisconsin's, but many cities across our country. And throughout this entire summer, we have seen these riots everywhere, and these activists, many of them connected to Antifa, Black Lives Matter, anarchists, and the indigenous rights movement. And we're going to focus on some of those folks tonight. But before I dive into a closer look, I wanted to thank all of those of you who support our work at our nonprofit radio station, and for those of you who send us comments, questions, and story topics.
It's great to have so many people that participate. and follow us and continue to watch our shows. We produce shows that are live streams on Facebook and YouTube. It's Duke 1517 on YouTube and 88.1 FM Fargo Moorhead on Facebook. We do programming on our local radio station. We run 24 hours a day. The Mexican Crossing Line is just one show that's on a radio station. We also have Cafe Rica. We also have Money Making Conversations on the weekend. We have other shows that go on, and it's a lot of work. We keep on working. We're in the middle of a pandemic, but luckily we have a studio that we can be close to and working every day. And we are doing that. And we appreciate the support. If you'd like to get hold of us, you can leave us a message on our message line at 701-566-0917. Again, that number is 701-566-0917. Also, you can email Cindy at kpppfm.com or me, Duke, at kpppfm.com. Like I said, we're on Facebook at 88.1 Fargo Moorhead. We also have the People's Press Project at Mexi-Can. Our YouTube channel is actually Duke Gomez-Schempp, but it's under Duke 1517 is the name of the channel. And also, you can go to our website at kpppfm.com. And if you'd like to support our work, make a tax-deductible donation, go to kpppfm.com/donate. Make a tax-deductible donation right there. Also, if you're on Super Chat, you'd like to support our work, go down to that Super Chat button, hit the cash, and make a contribution tonight.
Yes, and I'm going to scoot through this material. You know how I do it. I'm going to give you information based on what's happening right now that you can tie to the activism, the rioting, the protesting, whatever you want to call it, that we're seeing throughout the country. And I'm going to give you detail that goes back to my reporting about these conartivist, activist protesters nearly two and a half, 3 years now.
Yeah.
Those connected to Standing Rock, 4 years. 4 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So we have extensive materials to go through. One of the things about the Republican National Convention is the speech that was given last night by Nick Sandmann. I don't know if you guys got to see Nick Sandmann's speech, but it was quite... it was a powerful speech. I thought he gave a very succinct, very real, sincere, passionate speech from a young man whose name was defamed by and whose character was assassinated, whose friends and school and town and religion were really under attack by the mainstream media. And that he was targeted by these activists, by many of these activists. I'm very proud to say that I was able to help with reporting and investigating the story of the Nick Sandmann / Nathan Phillips hoax that was able to get him a result of millions of dollars of settlement from these mainstream media news outlets that defamed him. So with that in mind, I want to share with you the post, the latest scandal by one of these activists named Jeremy White. I'll tell you if you don't remember who Jeremy White is in a minute, but first let's get to the scandal. The scandal is that there is an activist, Jeremy White posted this. There's an activist, he says in quote, in Los Angeles has been pulling this kind of shiz for years, creating incidents, fake characters, garnering sympathy and attention as much needed resources from the movement, and over again, from faking cancer to catfishing other activists with fake Facebook accounts to constantly creating fake drama with her most likely fake boyfriend. This person has caused more damage to the movement in Los Angeles than any other person I can think of. I have her blocked, but I saw this posted on somebody else's page and it immediately knew what the truth was. The syntax, vocabulary, and specificity of details leads me to believe that Brenda Gutierrez smashed her own window and typed up this note to make it look like she is being attacked. Be careful with who you support. This monster grifted the movement for upwards of $20,000 with a fake cancer diagnosis, caused irreparable damage and mental health trauma, and destroyed some of the most active and effective groups in LA. Who's the real snake? Fake snake. So, Brenda Gutierrez, who's not to be confused with Birdie Gutierrez of the Border Support Network. If you were watching all of the activists associated with the Border Support Network, you know that Birdie Gutierrez was anchored in Southern California, San Diego, Tijuana, going back and forth, bringing supplies to the different shelters that they were helping to supply and to run, many of which were embroiled in scandals to trying to defraud the American government, helping these migrants get across illegally and helping people create fake marriages and all sorts of situations that were meant to get them asylum, quote unquote, in the United States. Now, Brenda Gutierrez is still part of the group of people working in California with those in the Border Support Network, but she is not the same Birdie Gutierrez. Along with this post, Jeremy showed this typed note he calls fake, and it is basically supposed to be a threat against Brenda, saying, effing lying snake, hope you effing do us all a favor and kill yourself already. You're so pathetic. You're going to start cutting again. You effing weak ass. I mean, I can't even read the whole thing. It's awful. It's meant to be a very triggering message that's very threatening to the individual. And she also posted this picture of her window. Jeremy posted this picture of the broken window that she posted along with the note. And basically, as we have seen in the past in this movement, people are starting to call each other out. Remember, folks, and you're gonna get a lot of flack for saying this, but remember that a lot of the people in the Black Lives Matter movement are not black. In fact, many of the people in the leadership are white or something else. We have something else running the leadership, running these different campaigns. In addition to which, you have people like Jeremy White involved in all sorts of immigration issues and Border Support Network, etc. And also, you know, in solidarity with Black Lives Matter in the allyship. This is the same guy that I showed you talked about how white people were supposed to go to the front lines in these Black Lives Matter protests, because that's what real white allies do. They're not just allies. They're what Nick Tilson called them, accomplices, right?
Yep.
Accomplices. So this is Brenda Gutierrez's Facebook page, so you're familiar with who the person that is being discussed here is. She is a woman of color. She's obviously Latina, right? Mm-hmm. She's got a banner on the back of her picture that's Black Lives Matter, Indigenous women, all connected, because this is what is all connected in these group of activists, right? I've shown you how it's not just Black Lives Matter, it's Antifa with the anarchists, and it's also the indigenous movement, right? Mm-hmm. This is the convergence. And it's all put under this umbrella because, I mean, it works well when you're doing politics. You need to bring all of these people under your umbrella. And the folks that are working here, Jeremy White included, as well as Brenda Gutierrez, are political actors, okay? Depending on, you know, where you see this structure, this hierarchy of these different individuals, I would put this particular person up a little higher, closer to the LA crowd that works directly with the political activists, the actors, etc. Here's another post of hers talking about some of the things she's been involved in lately, which includes raising money on a GoFraudMe for the Down with Columbus Legal Defense Fund in favor of, or to benefit, AIM of Twin Cities, the AIM Patrol of Minneapolis. Now, you know I've covered the AIM Patrol of Minneapolis here on my show and who it's connected with. So she's raising money for that particular group for specifically an individual arrested and charged and being prosecuted for toppling the Christopher Columbus statue outside the Capitol in St. Paul in June. Mike Forcia, the chairman of the AIM movement in Twin Cities, was charged with a felony count of criminal property damage. Age 56, he is charged in connection with the incident which occurred on June 10th with a group of protesters that toppled the statue with a rope. He is facing 5 years in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. An estimated cost to repair the statue is of more than $150,000. So, more information about Brenda is that she was accused in that post by Jeremy of having fake cancer. Well, the Viva Bernie 2020 page, with its thousands of followers, posted on behalf of her this GoFundMe, saying, fellow burners, activists, secretary of AIM SoCal official community, and the founder of Los Angeles' Me Too movement, Brenda Gutierrez, is near and dear to us, and we've recently learned she had cancer. So this Viva Bernie page, a political page, is calling her someone near and dear to their heart, a founder of the SoCal Me Too movement, as well as the AIM of SoCal official community. She is secretary of the American Indian movement of Southern California. Okay? So, who did this GoFundMe? Let's take a look at the GoFundMe at the end of that link. Why, it was none other than Jeremy White, the same person that is calling her a liar. He's the one that organized this GoFundMe for what he says was a fake cancer. Allegedly, she had this cancer. They raised a little less than $4,500 for her. As you can see, the GoFundMe is no longer receiving any funds. But I wanted to give you the background of that because he was the one that raised the money for her. And in the group Viva Bernie, there are 4 administrators / moderators, which include this woman named Fiorella Isabel. I recognize her name. I'm assuming that the Viva Bernie 2020 page is run by Jeremy White, along with other folks, including Fiorella Isabella, because Fiorella is one of the Latina Bernie Bros, Bernie campaign personalities, political personalities, and activists. Here's her about from her Facebook page. She has a show called The Convo Couch. She's a co-host. She's a journalist, according to this, that's freelance. She was formerly reporting at a station, an FM station in Los Angeles and Santa Barbara. She studied at Cambridge University, according to this, and lives in Los Angeles. Look at her first post there. You want to read that, Duke?
Yeah, 17-year-old pro-cop boy murdered 2 people in Wisconsin and has been arrested after video footage shows him working with police. The same people outraged over burned cars are claiming he was acting in self-defense. We have exclusive footage, and we'll show it on the show today.
Okay. Now, I just started the show telling you all that eyewitnesses that saw the shooting and had been living through the last 2 days of riots have come forward to say that armed residents were there to stop the destruction and the looting, and that they did not believe that this was premeditated. But let's look at the rhetoric behind these individuals. Here's her side of the story. This is what Brenda posted about Jeremy. Can you read that a little bit?
I'll try it. Make it a little bit bigger so I can read it. Brenda Gutierrez. I am putting out there if something were to happen to me. believe that Jeremy White and his little cult is behind it. If I am at an event and he is there, please keep an eye on me. This is the reason why I stay away from organizing circles that have this man. He doesn't have me blocked. I blocked him a long time ago. Not sure what he's talking about. $20,000. The GoFundMe he set up didn't even raise $5,000. I don't like putting my business out there or asking anyone for money. That's something he does. This is the type of shiz I'm talking about. I've never made a post talking beep about him or what his little circle has done. I haven't tried to push him out of organizing circles. People that have dealt with him know how problematic he and his circle are. This man has welcomed into my house, was welcomed into my house when he had nowhere else to go because he was homeless and sleeping at the coffee shop. I jumped the fence to get into Bernie's coffee shop to stop him from killing himself. He met my family, my nephews. He had me believing that he had suffered domestic violence at the hands of Michelle Manos.
Oh, you recognize that name?
Oh, yes, I do.
That was his girlfriend.
Oh, really?
Right? My partner, she says, my partner and I even took him to San Diego to get the police report. In the years I have known him, I have seen him slander more activists than I can count. This is the problem with activism today. White men playing the victim and blaming others for their problems. Sure, Jeremy makes lies about me because you think that if you slander my character enough, people won't believe the beep I know and have to say about you. Isn't it weird that he's always asking for money from the community? Isn't it weird that he's always attacking activists of color? His nickname for Michelle was Snake in the Grass. I guess getting back in the good graces with her helped him get in the Bernie campaign mix. He's always the victim. Interesting how many people have sent me this with their own stories of being bullied and targeted by this man. Please feel free to delete me if you believe him. And then she posts his post about her. And let me just show you one of the comments by Don Ford. This is what he had to say. This is the man who claims in later posts that he trained Jeremy White as an organizer. So he said he gave him his training as an organizer, as a community organizer. And this is what he had to say about him. He said that Jeremy and the whole group props up abusers and harassers. And he also goes on to say that Jeremy is a POS, that he stole every idea that was brought to him by Don, that he has lied about his cult, and that it turned out that he was beating up his ex-girlfriend the whole time, but no one wanted to talk about it. He still won't admit that he practically called this man Don crying in 2016. Matthew L. Killer was in the car with me. He was going to shut down the coffee shop and the organization. I convinced him to name the group after either Canvas for Progress or Oregon group, and they went with the For Progress. And then he lied about me to everyone to hide my influence. He steals everyone else's work and has zero results of his own. Now, I'm just showing you the allegations they make against each other. I've talked very seriously here on this show about how problematic it is to have white people leading black people, indigenous people's movements, etc., right? You don't put the people that are not affected by the issue at the head of the problem, right? And so when people bring up the fact that you have a lot of white people in the Black Lives Matter leadership, it's a valid concern. When this woman, Brenda, brings up the fact that Jeremy and Michelle are, invading this space of, Black Lives Matter and people of color activism, it's a valid concern. And let me just share with you some of the people that Jeremy and Michelle have worked with. Here is a post by actress Maya Rose Burko that was at Standing Rock, along with all the people tagged there: Jeremy White, Michelle Eileen, Brenda Gutierrez, of course. And then we see in the middle there, Susie Desba, who is Vanessa Dundon, and Francis Fisher. Now, if you look All the way to the right at the bottom in the front row is Frances Fisher.
Okay.
She's wearing a red bandana around her neck. Holding the Free Red Fawn sign, standing up in her regalia, is Vanessa Dundon, who was part of the November 20th riots against the police in North Dakota that resulted in her getting shot in the eye. We also have in the same picture, let's go to the next one with the tags that I made so you can see who these folks are. So we got Frances Fisher down there in the corner. Brenda Gutierrez is right in the middle, smack in the middle of this whole thing, right? Behind her and right directly behind her is Michelle Manos holding up a sign. And then to her left is Vanessa Dundon. And to her right is Maya Rose Burko, the actress, and Jeremy White, the guy that's right next to the AIM flag with the little beanie cap, black beanie cap. So all of these folks go all the way back to after the Standing Rock encampment happened, and they were marching in the Women's March in 2018. You can see photographs from that march here, along with American Indian Movement of Southern California, working with the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Group. And there's 6 people tagged in this. Let's take a look at those tags. Here are the tags for that post. There's Vanessa Dundon. Madeline Kelly Merritt was the LA bank exit leader, working with Jay Ponte and actress Estefania Rebelon. You remember Estefania Rebelon? She was the one that started that bus in Tijuana.
Oh, yeah.
You remember the Yes We Can bus that they parked right out in front of that shelter that Oscar El Blue Ramirez went and visited, where he interviewed Estefania Rebelon? These people raised thousands and thousands of dollars to set up a school for the kids in Tijuana and pocketed the money. Let me show you this next post from the same time frame. This is by Maya. There's Maddie Kelly Merritt from LA Ban Exit. This was the movement to exit the banks that were funding the pipeline that everyone had just been protesting at, and other pipelines around the country. And you can see there next to her is Maya Rose Burko. And in these other photos, you see her also standing with Rosario Dawson, the actress. There's Maya Rose Burko next to Rosario Dawson. The same lady in the glasses that's in the previous picture is in this picture with Rosario and Maya. And in addition to that, I wanted to share recent posts from the people that were connected to those pipeline movements in North Dakota, in South Dakota right now. Here is what is happening. They're having a powwow at the pipeline event. You can see there is tagged Natalie Seitz Means and Joy Brunn of the Indigenous Environmental Network. They're out protesting again. And let's see who is tagged in this post. There's 6 people tagged here. That includes Candy Brings Plenty, the woman working with the ACLU that you saw at the 3rd of July event that I recently covered, where Mark Tilson's brother, Nick Tilson, was arrested. He is also tagged in this post. You can also recognize Winia Locke, one of the activists working from Standing Rock with all of the folks involved in these groups of missing and murdered Indigenous women. And in this Jay Ponte post, he's from that group that raised the money for the bus. You can see they work with these groups connected to Indigenous rights. Estefania Rebelon, you see Jay Ponte and Susie Desba are tagged with 44 other people in this post talking about frontline activists. Who are they? How do they get through the toughest times in their life? Right at the top is the actress Estefania Rebelon, actress Frances Fisher, Joy Brunn of the Indigenous Environmental Network, Mark Tilson, Nick Tilson's brother, the Tilson brothers, Desiree Kane, who is part of the Indian Problem, Jodie Foster of Code Pink, Winnie Wong, the Bernie Sanders campaign fundraiser manager, Bob Bland, one of the co-founders of the Women's March, Nomiki Konst, who worked for the Young Turks, and Brenda Gutierrez, along with another man we're going to get to in a minute here, named Carlos Marroquin. Just put a pin in that name. Remember it. And of course, documentary filmmaker that was also at Standing Rock, Josh Fox. So, you know, they have all these different folks have different roles. Some work in politics, some work in media. Here's another post in which Brenda Gutierrez is also listed and linked, along with Eve Pizzamiglio, one of the people that took over as the executive directors of Activate Now, now defunct platform that started out at Standing Rock, and Mona Cedillo, the ex-girlfriend of Ed Higgins, the original founder of and correspondent for Activate Now. Now, these folks, along with Mona Cedillo and one of the other women listed in the links in the tags here, by the name of Lissa Yellowbird Chase, along with some of the other people that are linked here. Could you put that graphic up for me, please? Have been working, Lish Labarge, Anoa for Change, Chenga. You see these names, of course, Natalie Seitz Means as right at the top there. A lot of these people you see working together at the Powwow for the Pipeline. You see them working together with missing and murdered Indigenous women's groups, right? Same folks. And in this post, incidentally, from last year in 2019, Mona Cedillo, Ed Higgins' ex-girlfriend, and one of the many victims of his sexual harassment and assaults, is calling out another woman, incidentally, a white woman named Tangerine Bolin, for her problematic behavior within the movement, for her problematic activism. And she's calling her also out for supporting and continuing to befriend her sexual harasser, Ed Higgins. So let's go to Jeremy White's profile. Let's take a look at what he is, remind you what he is currently involved with. He's an artist with the Sunrise Movement. I did a whole show covering the Sunrise Movement, if you're not familiar. He's the creative director for Me Too Survivors. Remember, this is a white dude, not a woman. Somehow he's the creative director for Me Too Survivors. He's an organizer at Humanity First Coalition. I don't know what that is. He's the creative director and co-founder of the Bernie's Coffee Shop. He does freelance graphic design, freelance film production. He worked for Bernie Sanders for president, and he lives in Los Angeles. You'll also remember he was one of the first people to post the lie that when there was a violent clash between the Border Patrol agents and the migrants in the caravan, which included Maria Mesa, the woman that became famous for dragging her two twin kids through the fog. The two kids, the entire family, which were befriended by Paloma for Trump. The woman that actually was used to get her asylum claim expedited into this country. Yes, that Maria Mesa. And this was posted by the Nexus millionaire Maria Ann Thompson Frank with ties to big oil. She says, you need to look at Jeremy White's post. And Jeremy White says that one little girl has already died. Jeremy White, I want to remind folks, was involved at Standing Rock. And as you can see here from this post by the public relations manager and child of singer and songwriter Country Joe and the Fish, Seven McDonald, who was organizing out at Standing Rock, is commenting on a post as she is readying herself to attend Standing Rock in 2016. And Jeremy comments, you see there's a pile of coats she's getting ready to take back to the camp with her. And Jeremy White says, let me know If I can help, I am bringing a GoPro Hero 5 and can help shoot. And she says, Jeremy, come shoot for me. And also, I sent Michelle, she's talking about Michelle Manos, Sunday press release. So let's talk soon. She begins working with them at Standing Rock.
Wow.
Okay. Now, here's some of the recent posts by Jeremy. This one just today, within the last 24 hours, where he's talking about how neither the Republican Party nor the Democratic Party have any viable candidates. Remember, these were Bernie bros. These were Bernie people. They never wanted for Biden or Harris or Trump or Pence, according to them, to win. And this is what he's been saying the entire time. Now let's go to Michelle Manos, the girlfriend that was just brought up. What's she been posting lately? Because as you know, one of the problems that has been brought up by the president is the U.S. Postal Service. So Michelle Manos is featuring postal carrier stories. And guess what? Carlos Marroquin, the guy that you saw linked before in those tags, he is a postal carrier. Here he is with one of his furry friends from his route, Buster. In this next post, you see him posting about his work as a letter carrier on his own page, working for the U.S. Postal Service for 34 years. And he talks about how through every major event and catastrophe, weather condition, fire, earthquake, hurricane, riots, anthrax attacks, COVID-19, they have stood firm. They are doing their jobs. This is a union strong National Associations of Letter Carrier, letter USPS post on behalf of someone who, may I remind you, worked for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Here is his post about Bernie Sanders for president in 2020. And that woman that does the Viva Bernie Sanders page, Fiorella Isabel, talking about Bernie Sanders campaign just this year. And in this other post, Fiorella is sharing Carlos Marroquin's recent posts or pics pertaining to Kamala Harris. Just recently, on August 12th, Carlos and Fiorella reposted pictures from an event, a protest against Kamala Harris, in which you can see in these pics, it's the next one called pics, that Carlos Marroquin is holding signs saying that Kamala Harris has failed families. And in this other more old post, Carlos is talking about the beginning of August about food banks and the suffering of people in communities that are not getting help and that are being hit hard by the pandemic. Countless people that have not received government assistance, who are unable to work, who need food banks. And many of these activists are working at soup kitchens, food banks, homeless shelters, just like we saw in Tijuana, okay? But in Los Angeles, in California. Fiorella also posted earlier in July about another protest that took place in Los Angeles for Black Lives Matter. In attendance, of course, was Carlos Marroquin. And in this other post, Fiorella is pictured with Marroquin and calls themselves Bernie-crats. She's the woman in the dress. She's the only woman wearing a dress in this picture. That's Fiorella. And in this other post by Fiorella, she also thanks her friend Mark Lane of the Minority Humanitarian Foundation for coming to San Diego's Burners for Immigration town hall, in which he told Bernie Sanders his own personal story about dealing with Trump's disastrous immigration policies. And of course, in this same post, just 2 paragraphs down, you see that she also got to hear her mentor and Charlie to her angel, Carlos Marroquin, speaking with Bernie Sanders himself. Okay, and here's a picture of Mark Lane. Mark Lane is the one under the white arrow, the big dude with the bald head. Fiorella is the one in all black in the front, just 2 people away from him. So these folks worked with someone we know runs shelters in Tijuana, along with Bertie Gutierrez, right? We know that this man has been flying people all over the country, helping people. We also know that these folks have worked hand and glove with folks that are connected to Hollywood that raise money for the Yes We Can bus and other things. Here is a list of those folks, in case you don't remember. Estefania Rebelon, the actress that raised money for the bus that they were supposed to use for the migrants in Tijuana. You see Fiorella Isabella is tagged at the very top with all of the people that raised the money, the HCL 5 leaders that raised money for Yes We Can in their 24-hour fundraiser. And there's Frances Fisher. And there's Madeline Kelly Merritt, the other actress. There's Rye Bread. Remember, she was in Tijuana, quote-unquote, reporting. There's Vanessa Dundon, a.k.a. Susie Desba. And there's Brenda Gutierrez and Carlos Marroquin. And that's not all they were involved with, okay? Because I want to remind you that I did a whole section on the human smuggling operation and the media allies that were walking with them, supposedly documenting, but really helping the smugglers move groups of people through Mexico, through Central America, Mexico, and into the United States. Among those was actor Sam Slovic. If you recall from Sam Slovic's videos, he was running around with a group of people that included Rodrigo and some other folks that were targeting those special stories that Mark Lane also targeted of the little girl in the wheelchair and Maria Mesa and her kids and, you know, those very well-known migrants that managed to get asylum expedited for them from the LGBTQ caravan, etc. And here's the post. Here's one of the live streams of Sam Slovic's in which he is with the Rodrigo guy. And you can see that Ada Trillo is with them. She's one of those reporters, quote-unquote reporters, that was traveling with the caravans, embedded with the caravans. And Carlos Marroquin comments, thanking them for their live stream and telling Sam what a great job he's doing. And what exactly was he doing? If you recall, Sam Slovic was tagged at the refugee camp along with a bunch of other people, including their media ally Lorenzo Serna of Unicorn Riot, who was there at the time. You see in the friends list, Steve Goot. The recent live stream I shared on 88.1 FM is of documentary filmmaker and media ally Steve Goot, who was recently out at the LA riots. You also have in the tags Jake Lee, one of the people working with Kei Kurimoto and other folks that were raising money and lying to people about their chances for asylum. You have Myron Dewey of Digital Smoke Signals. There's Seven McDonald, the daughter of the Country Joe and the Fish singer. Sean T. Hockey was a photographer, along with Ada Trillo and many of these other media people that were walking with the caravan. Wambly Wicasa is another one of the profiles for Wiaka Eagleman, Joy Braun's nephew, who was in Tijuana along with Evan K. Duke III. There's Rye Bread again. And again, there's Carlos Marroquin. Carlos Marroquin, I've talked about briefly in the past, but I want you to get to know him better because Carlos is kind of a big deal. Carlos' page from before, this is his profile that I showed you a long time ago. You see there, he's got the background There's a guy standing next to a white flag in his banner behind him. That's Evan Duke. That's the picture that he took at Standing Rock. This is a profile screen grab from back in the day where he was still proudly portraying Evan K. Duke III, Antifa leader, recently on a watch list for Department of Homeland Security and Interpol and many other places. Not that long ago, arrested in riots. And now this is what his page looked like. This is the new page for 2020. This is what it looks like now. He's got boots on the ground, grassroots, powered by the people. Carlos Marroquin, people's advocate, strategist and organizer, organizing at Bernie Sanders' brigade. Still in charge of that, I guess. He's also part of the group of people that, like Sandy Ocasio-Cortez, or as they call her now, Alexandria, were all at Standing Rock. Here he is pictured with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Here's also another picture of him with Tulsi Gabbard, one of the many people involved at Standing Rock. Here's a picture with Congressman Ro Khanna, someone that was working closely with Wesley Clark Jr., Francis Fisher, and the Hollywood crowd around the pipeline issues at Standing Rock. And of course you have former candidate for the Congress of North Dakota, Chase Iron Eyes. Here he is pictured with Carlos Marroquin, who came down to Standing Rock with the veterans. Here he is working with the other guy on the watch list for the Homeland Security that took Native Americans to Tijuana into Mexico to travel with the caravans under the prophecy of the eagle and the condor. This is from Carlos Marroquin's page. Myron Dewey, the drone pilot. And here he is posting pictures of Nathan Phillips, of the Nathan Phillips hoax with Nick Sandmann and Kei Kurimoto, the woman that was organizing and fundraising for the caravans in Tijuana. Here's another picture that features Nathan Phillips right up front from Carlos Marroquin's page. In the middle between them there in the background is Dan Nimkin, one of the many people that went down to Burning Man afterwards, right after Standing Rock, if you remember. And Nate Kingfisher. Kingfisher there, holding the honor, the sacred sign, is one of the people, the media people that helped to pull off the Nathan Phillips hoax against Sandmann and his fellow students. And in this post, with digital smoke signals and the veterans, you see that they posted their solidarity with the veterans groups. And at the top there, you can't see very closely, but here you'll see Evan Duke much more closely in this next picture. He was standing right next to Evan K. Duke III at Standing Rock. So they were working closely together with Antifa. They were working closely together with the very same people that we now see are fighting, involved in all of the protesting and the rioting that we see taking place, and the media coverage that is now taking place all throughout our country. And I want to leave you with this because as I feature some of these folks, they become the subject of news as they become detained or arrested or questioned. The latest of which is Andrew Tolman, the 30-year-old American Sign Language translator that I featured in one of my previous shows, along with Kiara Janae Horsley, the full-service prostitute at the front of Black Lives Matter in Portland. Remember him and his his American Sign Language translations for Lilith Sinclair that he does? So Andrew Tolman was recently arrested and charged at the Antifa riots in Portland, but quickly released without bail. Folks, hopefully more of these people will continue to fall. Let's take a look at their activism actually post from back in the day when they formed the Border Support Network. As you can see, Tolman made this post himself, and he's tagged with Lilith Sinclair and Evan Duke. All of these folks have now been either arrested, detained, investigated, or are currently on a watch list. More to come. Thank you for learning and listening along with me about these activists who are definitely in it for politics. They're connected to politics. This is nothing more than part of the charade around partisan politics in our country, and it needs to be exposed and uncovered for all of you to see. So thank you for watching and sharing this program. This was A Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp
and Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP Fargo-Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Have a great evening and God bless.